Here I've taken a cut piece of an old earphone wire which I initially thought would use to represent the hollow tubes, but since I couldn't take the inner wire out, I made one out of a strip cut from a food packet. So here I have the hollow tube ready. Next I have 3 cut pieces from old notebook covers, 2 of which are relatively harder. I'll be using them to represent the outer hard socket, and the other one I'll be using for the inner flexible socket. Since there was no extra article available, I would follow the exact words of the book to try and explain. Now the book says, in fabrication process, hollow tubes are laminated inside the frame. So I'm placing this tube in between the layers of the outer frame that I'm going to create. Now I'll be giving it a cylindrical shape so that it can somehow represent the outer hard socket. Now the flexible inner socket goes inside the outer hard socket. As you can see, there are 2 different materials. The inner one is relatively flexible and the outer one is relatively harder in my case. In the reality, it's definitely going to be a solid frame, of course. In the hard socket, as I can see where the hollow tube is, I'll be following its path so that I can track the position of the panels accordingly. Now I'm going to cut out the panels. Here you can see the tube inside. So as mentioned in the book, after the panels are cut out of the frame, the hollow tubes are exposed. We can see the hollow tube both inside the panels and in the rest of the socket too. Now since the hollow tubes are exposed, we'll be allowing tensioning cords to be fed through the tubes in both the panels and the rigid frame. My model is ready now. Here I have the inner flexible socket and the rigid outer frame with free floating panels. The free floating panels are connected by tensioning cords. Similarly on the other side, the cord can be tightened and loosened when required. The cords can be tightened as needed to move the panels closer to the inner flexible socket, thereby increasing the overall compression felt by the user. We are trying to pull the cords so that the panels get closer to the socket, to the rigid frame, and then create enough compression over the inner flexible socket. As we can see the compression on the inner flexible socket. Since the cord has been pulled now, we have been trying to create a total contact fit. The inner flexible socket is compressed enough. It can be adjusted according to the requirements of the patients again.